For NBA fans, it's hard to forget the moment DeMar DeRozan posted this on Twitter. "This depression get the best of me." The tweet, completely spontaneous.
Yeah, that moment, I think, it was more so me just kind of hitting the wall of feeling overwhelmed with so much that was going on personally.
That off-the-cuff tweet catapulted the former Raptors player into the heart of a growing conversation around mental health, the first of its kind in the NBA, even sparking systemic change.
Never be ashamed of wanting to be a better you, period.
The league created a mental health program, and today, every team has to have mental health professionals on deck available for players.
Looking back now, did you expect to be a face of this mental health conversation, and especially in the NBA?
Yeah. No, not at all. That was never my plan. No, I never would have imagined that. I never would have thought that. It'll lead me down a road of, changing so many lives.
That road, documented in his new memoir, Above the Noise, a vulnerable account of his past traumas.
I was kind of forced in that by me just going through so much, kind of just breaking down, and me being broke down gave me a moment to kind of think and to myself and kind of get my emotions together and figure out why I'm going through or why I was feeling how I was feeling.
3 major themes define his story: love, loyalty, and loss. DeMar grew up poor in Compton, California, at the height of a drug crisis and gang wars. As a young child, he lost family and friends to gang violence.
What was it like as a kid having to push through that?
As a kid, unknowingly, it's hard to kind of process such a in-depth emotion when your brain isn't even fully developed, but you're normalizing the tragedy. And it's not till later when you realize the PTSD you suffer from, the trauma, the built-up aggression and the emotional responses you have to so much stuff, is because the worst thing when you're young, you think it's normal, losing people, seeing so much negative things going on. So it was rough. It was extremely rough. That wasn't something a child should be going through.
Ultimately, it was basketball that provided an escape.
Basketball was my complete safe haven, my safe place to kind of get away from my reality of whatever it was I was going through. You kind of could dive into imagination, acting like you was Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant out there on the court, and everything else didn't matter, and that's why you'll see kids so young in the inner city just being at the playground playing basketball for hours and hours and hours because they never wanted to go home.
In high school, DeMar became a local basketball star. The sport blasted him to success, turning him into one of the most sought-after young athletes from his graduating class. And he ultimately accepted a scholarship to play ball at the University of Southern California.
The Toronto Raptors select DeMar DeRozan.
He was an NBA top 10 draft pick just 1 year later. A young player with big ambitions, proving it soon after his rookie season. When the team's franchise player Chris Bosh chose to leave in 2010, DeRozan seized the moment and stepped up, tweeting, "Don't worry, I got us."
Down to DeRozan, season.
He lived up to what he set out to do, breaking record after record. In 2016, he helped the Raptors get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time ever. The ultimate goal, an NBA championship trophy. DeRozan is known for doing something that no other franchise player did. In a stunning expression of loyalty, he said he wanted to be a Raptor for his whole career.
I put my blood, sweat, and tears in this organization, and I wasn't done yet. I'm far from done. I am Toronto, outside of where I'm from. I represent this thing harder than anybody.
But then, when a trophy finally seemed within reach, a shocking gut punch.
4 a.m. flurry of activity in the newsroom. DeMar DeRozan going back to San Antonio.
The team traded him after he had spent 9 years with the franchise.
Obviously, you have loyalty tattooed on your hand, so it's a big value for you. It comes up a lot in your story. You know, I imagine it can be very hard when loyalty is not reciprocated. So what was it like when Toronto traded you, and how did that affect your mental health?
It was tough, but it was more so a life lesson. You know, when you heartbroken, you know, when you lose your first of anything, it sucks. It hurts, especially a place you wanted to be, you loved, cared about, and you put so much in and accepted you back. You know, and looking back at everything, you can never take away all the great, you know, beautiful things that the city gave me, and vice versa. Some people that would never, you know, have a career like I had in a place like this and be loved in a place like this. And, you know, that's all you can ask for, you know, and you got to be proud of that.
And now, your 2019 NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors.
The year after DeMar was traded, the Raptors went on to win their first championship. A moment he had spent nearly a decade working towards, happening without him. Still, his best friend gave him a shout out during post-game celebrations.
This championship wasn't built in a year. And as this process unfolded, you lost teammates. One in particular who I know you consider a brother. What would you say to DeMar DeRozan?
I love him, and I know he's happy for me right now. I'll FaceTime him later.
DeMar has several close friends in the league. Male athletes who were never encouraged to express their emotions. Black men who came from similar beginnings.
You know, many men don't have these strong, vulnerable bonds with other men, and that's why their mental health is turning into an epidemic. I'm wondering how having, you know, male friendships, especially men who are black men, black athletes, come from similar beginnings, how that's helped you.
It's big for me because when you can identify with somebody, one, you look up to, two, you respect, and three, that, you know, you actually have a relationship with, it kind of gives you a glimpse of not feeling alone. You know, it's okay to be vulnerable with somebody you care about, somebody you close with, you know, because it becomes very therapeutic in a sense when, you know, you have that one person you know you could talk to.
Basketball helped DeMar climb out of a traumatic environment, but his family shielded him from the worst and nurtured his talent.
I'm extremely close to my parents. You know, I was the only child in the house. I'm my mother's only child. So growing up in a household with just me, my mom and dad, even though we didn't have much, or we was kind of less than a lot of other people. I had my parents, and most people I knew didn't have both their parents in the same household. So for me, it was kind of a big deal to have my parents, and I leaned on them a lot.
When DeMar made it to the NBA, his parents were by his side. His dad got to see him play in the NBA and encouraged him all along. But he died during the pandemic in 2021 after battling multiple illnesses. DeMar's mental health work helping him process that loss.
How has the way you cope with loss and grief evolved over time?
It's still tough, you know, but once you realize grief comes with life, you know, you kind of understand it a little bit better, in a logical sense of knowing, you know, you can't go through a lifetime without dealing with some type of grief. It's how you come out that grief, is what's important from that.
If your dad were here, what do you think he would say if he received your memoir?
I think he'd be overly proud, very, very emotional at the fact of me just taking the lead, doing some to this point for sure.
Today, DeMar has children of his own. His love for his kids gives him strength to move through life.
My kids are my inspiration. You know, my 5 kids, they you know, give me the patience, the understanding, the growth, the strength to kind of keep pushing and keep going. You know, because life get hard. You know, it get rough. You know, it still get lonely. You know, without my kids, I don't think I will have the ultimate power to, you know, go through the things that I go through to try to make myself better.
At 35, DeMar has seen and learned a lot. His journey full of loss, loyalty, and love. Basketball weaving it all together.
We all go through the same thing. We all got the same type of emotions. And it's okay to be vulnerable and show those things. For me, just wanting to show I'm human more than anything.